long shadows across the Hammond estate's manicured lawns as an army of caterers transformed the sprawling property. Arthur Hammond stood in his gourmet kitchen, methodically arranging handcrafted Belgian chocolates on a crystal display. Each piece was placed with surgical precision, a habit from his modest beginnings that 2 decades of wealth hadn't erased. Mr. Hammond, executive chef Marcel, approached with a sample plate. "I've modified the dessert menu as requested. The chocolate soufflé incorporates the single-origin Ecuadorian cacao Emma discovered during her semester abroad." Arthur nodded approvingly, sampling the delicate creation. "Perfect, Marcel. She'll appreciate the detail." Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he watched his twin sons, Michael and James, setting up lawn games with mathematical precision. At 17, they were already showing signs of the men they would become: focused, methodical, and far more perceptive than most realized. "Dad," Michael called through the intercom system they'd installed last summer, "the motion sensors for the garden lighting need recalibration. Should we adjust the algorithms?" "Go ahead," Arthur replied, suppressing a smile at their technical dedication. The twins had wired the entire estate with a sophisticated security system under the guise of a summer project. Few knew that every room, every corridor, held their silent electronic sentinels. "The centerpieces absolutely must go in the main dining room." Ginger Hammond's voice pierced the kitchen's tranquil atmosphere. She stood in the doorway, a vision in Chanel, directing staff with the precision of a field marshal. "The lighting there creates the perfect ambience. The governor's wife is attending, and everything must be flawless." Arthur watched his wife orchestrate the preparations, remembering the days before Hammond and Dwyer Investments, when they'd lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Somerville. Back then, Ginger had been content with backyard barbecues, her laugh genuine, her joy unburdened by social climbing. Success had changed her, but he'd attributed it to natural evolution. "The DMA Holdings portfolio summary, sir." His personal assistant Thomas discreetly placed a folder beside him. And Ms. Boyd sent an update. The mention of the private investigator was casual, but meaningful. "Thank you, Thomas. Please ensure the security feeds are recording properly." Arthur's tone remained even as he scanned the documents. Through the window, he noticed the twins had paused their work, their attention drawn to something near the garden pavilion. Mrs. Hammond, the head florist, approached Ginger with fabric samples. "About the table runner." "Not now," Ginger snapped, checking her phone. Her perfectly manicured fingers flew across the screen, composing what was surely another social media post about her perfect family. Their daughter Emma had just graduated top of her class, accepted to Yale Law with multiple scholarship offers. The twins were brilliant, if introverted, more interested in their complex algorithms than social climbing. From the outside, they were the perfect family, the crown jewel of Boston's elite social circle. The sound of hushed voices from the servants' corridor caught Arthur's attention. His sister Faith's urgent whisper carried through the space. "Stop it. Arthur's just in the next room. He'll see you with Garrett." A laugh followed Ginger's laugh, but with an unfamiliar edge of cruelty that made Arthur's hands still on the chocolate display. "That pathetic ATM machine? He's too busy setting up trust funds for kids that aren't his." 20 years of high-stakes negotiations had taught Arthur to control his reactions. His face remained impassive as he turned to the waiting staff. "Please proceed with the service preparations." His Italian leather shoes made no sound on the marble floor as he moved toward the voices, years of training allowing him to maintain perfect composure despite the rage building inside. Through the kitchen windows, the twins had stopped their work entirely. Their faces showed no surprise, only a calculated interest that spoke volumes about what they might already know. James discreetly adjusted one of their hidden cameras while Michael tapped something into his tablet. The security system they'd installed wasn't just for protection, it was their own private surveillance network, capturing every moment, every conversation, every betrayal in pristine digital clarity. The side pantry door stood ajar, offering Arthur an unobstructed view of the scene inside. Ginger, wrapped in a St. John knit dress that cost more than their first car, pressed against Garrett Dwyer, his supposed best friend since their MIT days, best man at their wedding, godfather to the twins, and partner in the firm they'd built from nothing. Her perfectly manicured hands played with his Hermes tie while his fingers traced patterns on her waist. Faith stood nearby, her face tight with anxiety, fingers twisting the hem of her blouse. A file folder lay open on the counter beside her financial documents Arthur recognized from their children's charitable foundation. Please, not here, not today. Think about Emma. This is her special day. Oh, perfect timing. Ginger's voice dripped with venom as she spotted Arthur. The mask of perfect wife and mother dropped completely, replaced by something ugly and foreign. Finally caught on. Dummy? We've been together for years. All those late nights at the office? Not exactly working on portfolios. She straightened, confidence born of 2 decades of financial security evident in every movement. Try divorcing me, I'll take everything. The kids will hate you when I'm done telling them how you neglected us for work, chose the firm over family. Your clients? They'll run when they hear how Boston's perfect family man couldn't satisfy his wife. Your reputation, your career, I'll burn it all down. The Children's Foundation accounts, Faith interjected, her voice stronger now. The money that was supposed to go to scholarship. Shut up, Faith, Garrett snapped, finally finding his voice. This doesn't concern you. Arthur felt an odd sense of calm descend, the same clarity he'd experienced during the 2008 financial crisis when everyone else panicked and he'd seen opportunity in chaos. Interesting theory, he said, pulling out his phone with steady hands. He played the recording, her entire confession, including the thread about the children's paternity, crystal clear in the pantry's enclosed space. Ginger's smirk faltered, color draining from her expertly made-up face. Garrett took a step forward, straightening his tie. Now, Arthur, let's be reasonable about this. We're all adults here. But that's not all, Arthur continued, his voice steady as he opened a folder on his phone. The kids already know everything. Have for months. Did you really think they wouldn't notice? That they wouldn't investigate when they saw the discrepancies in the foundation accounts? Through the window, he could see the twins had positioned themselves strategically, one monitoring the security feeds, the other coordinating with Thomas to ensure everything was being recorded. They were their father's sons, always 3 steps ahead. The screen displayed Private Investigator Brandy Boyd's comprehensive report, a year's worth of surveillance detailed in meticulous notes, photographs, and financial records. Hotel receipts from the Four Seasons, the Royalton, even a private villa in the Maldives. Text messages coordinating meetups under the guise of charity board meetings. Bank transfers showing Garrett embezzling from the firm to fund their lavish affair. You've been watching us? Ginger's perfect makeup couldn't hide the shock that made her look suddenly older, more vulnerable. How dare you spy on me? Since Faith came to me with her suspicions last year, Arthur replied, nodding to his sister who stood straighter now, all anxiety replaced with quiet determination. She noticed things. Small things. Like how Garrett's signature was appearing on documents he hadn't reviewed. How charitable donations were being redirected. The kids? They figured it out themselves. He turned to Garrett, who was attempting to straighten his silk tie with trembling hands. Emma saw you at the Royalton. That day you claimed to be at a board meeting? She was there for a pre-law society lunch. The boys? They're not just good at robotics. That GPS tracking app they developed for their science fair? They've been monitoring your car for months. The foundation money, Faith added, her voice steady now as she held up her tablet. $3 million meant for underprivileged students, diverted through a maze of offshore accounts. Did you think nobody would notice? Now, Arthur, Garrett attempted his boardroom voice, the one he used to calm nervous investors, let's handle this reasonably. These allegations are serious. Allegations? Arthur's laugh held no humor. Like when you helped spread rumors about the children's paternity. That was calculated. Made me worried enough to get DNA tests done. But you didn't stop there, did you? The offshore accounts, the embezzled funds, the systematic destruction of evidence, except my children are better at digital forensics than you imagined. He pulled out another file. All 3 are mine, by the way. You couldn't even be clever enough to tell the truth about your lies. But then, you never were as smart as you thought you were you, Garrett? Dad. Emma's voice floated through the corridor, getting closer. The Petersons just arrived, and Mrs. Richardson is asking about the foundation's next gala. Arthur checked his Patek Philippe watch, a gift from his children last Father's Day. The inscription read, "To the father who taught us integrity matters most." The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Well, he straightened his bespoke suit, a predatory smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Shall we join our daughter's graduation party? Half of Boston's financial elite is waiting." Though Garrett might want to check his phone first. The board members should be receiving some interesting emails right about now. Through the window, he could see the twins had finished their preparations. The security cameras were recording everything. The electronic paper trail was complete. Years of deception, laid bare in bits and bytes. "You wouldn't dare cause a scene at Emma's party," Ginger hissed, desperation creeping into her voice. "You're bluffing, Mom." Emma appeared in the doorway, radiant in her designer dress. Her eyes took in the scene: her mother's flushed face, Garrett's nervous fidgeting, her aunt's resolute stance, and her father's calm demeanor. "The Petersons are asking about the Foundation scholarship program. Should I tell them about the recent adjustments to the fund?" Arthur smiled at his daughter, proud of her perfect timing and sharp mind. "Why don't we all go discuss it? I'm sure Garrett and your mother would love to explain their innovative approach to charitable giving." The sounds of the party filtered through champagne corks popping, society laughter, string quartet music floating on the evening air. Boston's elite had gathered to celebrate Emma's graduation, unaware they were about to witness the systematic dismantling of a carefully constructed facade. Faith's tablet pinged with new notifications, more evidence compiled by the twins, more proof of betrayal and theft. The house's hidden cameras recorded everything, building an irrefutable case with every passing second. "Dad." Emma's voice carried through the hallway with calculated precision. "The Petersons just arrived, and Mrs. Richardson is asking about the Foundation's next gala." She stood in the doorway of the pantry, wearing a midnight blue Carolina Herrera dress that projected both sophistication and authority. Her Yale Law acceptance letter had arrived with perfect timing, just as Arthur's plans were set in motion. Arthur checked his Patek Philippe, watched the Father's Day gift inscribed with words that now seemed prophetic. The time read 6:45 p.m., when Boston's elite would be most attentive, their social radar fine-tuned to any hint of scandal. Perfect timing. "Shall we greet our guests?" "You can't expose this," Ginger hissed, her manicured fingers digging into his sleeve like talons. The desperation in her eyes betrayed the first cracks in her perfect facade. "Think of our reputation." "Our reputation?" Arthur gently removed her hand, his touch containing neither warmth nor malice. "No, Ginger. You stopped being part of our anything when you and Garrett started embezzling from children's charities." Thomas, Arthur's personal assistant of 15 years, materialized silently at his elbow. "Sir, Mrs. Peterson mentioned the Wellington Academy Scholarship Program. Apparently, her niece was among those affected by the recent funding irregularities." "How unfortunate," Arthur replied, his voice carrying just enough for the nearby staff to hear. The catering team, all handpicked by Thomas for their connections to Boston's service industry gossip network, absorbed every word. "We'll need to address that tonight, won't we, Garrett?" As they emerged from the pantry, Garrett's phone erupted with notifications. The twin surveillance system captured his expression from 3 different angles as his face, already pale, drained of what little color remained. "SEC. Emergency board meeting. Asset freeze," he stammered, fingers trembling on his phone screen. A second wave of notifications followed: banking alerts, board messages, frantic text from partners. "Arthur, you can't. This will destroy." "Oh, that," Arthur smiled, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server, the same server whose sister had been promised a Hammond Foundation scholarship that mysteriously vanished. "It seems someone anonymously tipped off the Securities and Exchange Commission about those creative accounting practices you've been using. They're particularly interested in the offshore accounts where our clients' money ended up." Through the crowd, the twins executed their roles with military precision. Michael stood beside Jennifer Chun, the Morgan Stanley executive who trusted Garrett with her firm's largest accounts. His tablet accidentally displayed transaction records that made her eyes narrow dangerously. James engaged Robert Sullivan from Goldman Sachs, their conversation about robotics seamlessly weaving in mentions of their new financial tracking algorithm. Faith approached with Margaret Bullock, the foundation's chairwoman whose reputation for ruthless charity oversight had ended careers before. The older woman's pearls gleamed like armor as she surveyed the scene. Arthur, Faith's voice carried just the right note of concern. Margaret was just asking about the audit results, particularly regarding the discrepancies in the scholarship funding. Audit. Ginger's perfectly manicured nails dug into her crystal glass. A hairline crack appeared in the stem. Yes, dear. Arthur's voice reached the society columnist from the Boston Globe, who had been strategically positioned by Thomas moments before. The emergency audit I ordered when we discovered irregularities in the Children's Foundation accounts. Margaret, would you like to discuss the findings now? The murmurs began immediately, spreading through Boston's elite like wildfire. Judge Harrison, whose granddaughter's scholarship had vanished, leaned in to whisper to his wife. Catherine Winthrop, head of 3 major charity boards, pursed her lips in disapproval. Every reaction was noted, every whisper recorded by the sophisticated surveillance system the boys had installed throughout the mansion. I believe, Margaret's voice cut through the growing tension like a blade. We should discuss the unauthorized transfers from the Underprivileged Students Fund. The ones marked as administrative expenses, but traced to a villa in the Maldives. The party transformed into a masterclass in sophisticated destruction. Emma took her position at the podium, her Yale acceptance letter framed perfectly behind her along with her achievements valedictorian, National Merit Scholar, and most tellingly, founder of a student-run ethics committee that had recently investigated financial mismanagement in educational charities. Success isn't about appearances, she began, her voice clear and strong. It's about integrity, about choosing right over easy. Her eyes found Arthur in the crowd. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me that truth matters more than fought. When I discovered certain discrepancies in our foundation scholarship program, you showed me the importance of accountability. The twins worked the room with surgical precision. Michael approached Dorothy Chun, Morgan Stanley's head of compliance, his tablet displaying damning financial records with seemingly accidental precision. Our latest AI algorithm is fascinating, Michael commented, scrolling through graphs that clearly showed unauthorized transfers. It's particularly good at identifying irregular transaction sequences. See these patterns here? The system flagged them as potential fraud indicators. James, meanwhile, had cornered William Pierce, Goldman Sachs risk management director. The blockchain verification system we developed, he explained, showing a complex network of transactions on his phone. It's interesting how it flags certain behavioral patterns, like these transfers from the Children's Foundation to offshore accounts. The AI assigns them a 99.8% probability of fraudulent intent. Look, Michael murmured to his brother as they passed near the bar, checking their synchronized tablets. Morgan Stanley's compliance department just initiated emergency protocols. The algorithm predicted this exact timing. Goldman's next, James replied, monitoring the real-time feed. 3, 2, 1. On cue, Pierce's phone buzzed. His face darkened as he read the message, eyes darting between Garrett and Arthur before he began making urgent calls. Garrett, sweat now visible through his custom-made shirt, cornered Arthur by the bar. We can fix this, he pleaded, his boardroom confidence evaporating like cheap cologne. I'll return everything, sign over my shares. Your shares? Arthur raised an eyebrow, taking a measured sip of his 30-year-old scotch. Check your contract's morality clause. The board voted 10 minutes ago. You're out, Garrett. Though I'm sure the SEC will be interested in your creative approach to client fund management. Ginger, increasingly desperate, fluttered from group to group. But doors kept closing. Silent phone calls. Turnbacks. 20 years of carefully cultivated relationships crumbling in real time. Her attempt to approach Barbara Whitman, chair of the hospital board, was met with a cutting, "Oh dear, I believe my husband needs me," leaving Ginger standing alone with her untouched champagne. Mrs. Hammond? Thomas approached with perfect timing, carrying a silver tray with an envelope. A delivery requiring your signature. The envelope was thick, cream-colored legal paper from Francine Foster's firm, Boston's most ruthless divorce attorney, known for representing wronged spouses of the city's elite. The gold embossing caught the light as Ginger's trembling fingers broke the seal. Inside lay divorce papers, meticulously prepared. along with restraining orders and evidence of financial malfeasance. Each document had been carefully crafted to maximize both legal and social damage. "You can't do this," Ginger whispered, mascara starting to smear as she scanned the documents. "I'll fight it. I know things about you." "Like what?" Arthur's voice remained conversational as Margaret Bullock and 3 other charity board members moved within earshot. "The affairs that never happened? The paternity lies you spread? Or perhaps your creative interpretation of charitable giving?" Faith stepped forward, her tablet displaying a devastating sequence of evidence. Bank statements appeared on the screen, showing a complex web of fraud. Charitable donations diverted to private accounts, foundation money used for lavish rendezvous, all traceable to Ginger and Garrett. "The Margaret Whitman Scholarship Fund," Faith noted, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. 6 deserving students lost their chance at college so you could spend a week in the Maldives. The Roberts family grant for medical research diverted to pay for shopping sprees at Bergdorf's. The twins approached, phones recording everything. "Mom," Michael said coldly, his voice carrying the same analytical precision he applied to his robotics projects. "Your Bentley's being repossessed. Something about it being purchased with misappropriated funds?" "And the country club called," James added, consulting his tablet. "They're reviewing your membership. Apparently, charity fraud violates their ethics code. The board meets tomorrow morning to discuss your immediate removal." Emma joined them, her acceptance to Yale Law adding weight to her words. "The scholarship committee at Wellington Academy is particularly interested in how their endowment was redirected. Those were my classmates' younger siblings you stole from, Mom. Did you think about that during your spa weekends in the Maldives?" The party continued around them, a perfect orchestration of social destruction. Every conversation, every whispered comment, every turn back was captured by the twins' surveillance system. The evidence mounted, the noose tightened, and Boston's elite watched the unraveling of a carefully constructed FOD. Thomas coordinated with the security team, ensuring all exits remained subtly blocked. The catering staff continued their choreographed movements, each pause and whispered conversation designed to maximum effect. The string quartet played on, providing a sophisticated soundtrack to the systematic dismantling of 2 decades of social climbing. Arthur stood in the center of it all, calm and controlled, watching 20 years of deception crumble under the weight of truth. His children flanked him, a united front against the corruption that had threatened to destroy their family's legacy. The night wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice, served cold and calculated, with every move choreographed for maximum effect. The Hammond name would survive, stronger for having exposed the rot within, while Ginger and Garrett's carefully constructed world shattered like the crystal glass trembling in her manicured hands. Dawn broke over Boston's financial district as the Sunday morning sun crept through the windows of Arthur Hammond's home office, casting long shadows across multiple screens tracking the explosive fallout. The twins' sophisticated monitoring program aggregated data in real time, each screen displaying different aspects of the destruction. Hammond and Dwyer Investments. Major shake-up. Top financial partner faces SEC investigation. Society scandal. Charitable funds misappropriated. Boston elite rocked by foundation fraud. Arthur sat at his mahogany desk, watching the chaos unfold with the same calculated precision he'd used to orchestrate it. The program Michael and James had developed highlighted key trends in red, potential threats in yellow, and favorable developments in green. The screen was predominantly red, exactly as planned. Morgan Stanley's pulling all accounts, Emma reported from her position by the window, her Yale Law acceptance letter beside her laptop like a badge of honor. Their compliance department issued an emergency protocol at 6 a.m. Goldman Sachs just released a statement distancing themselves from Garrett. Listen to this. In light of recent revelations, Goldman Sachs has terminated all relationships with Mr. Dwyer and related entities, pending federal investigation. Thomas entered with the morning's intelligence briefing, his efficiency showing why Arthur had hired him 15 years ago. "Sir, Mrs. Hammond made 6 attempts to access the main accounts between 5:47 a.m. and 6:15 a.m. The system blocked each attempt as programmed. Her credit cards were declined at the Four Seasons where she fled last night rather dramatically, according to staff reports. The hotel manager called personally," Faith added, reviewing data on her tablet. Richard's daughter Sophie, the one who received one of your genuine scholarships to Harvard, is working the front desk. She personally delivered the request for Mrs. Hammond to vacate the premises. Apparently, Ginger tried to claim the room charges were foundation expenses. Mom's calling again, Michael announced from his monitoring station, not bothering to hide his disgust. Third attempt in the past hour. James pulled up the call log on the main screen. Pattern analysis shows a shift in strategy. First wave, hysterical crying. Second wave, threats about revealing family secrets. Now this. Neither. Michael displayed the text message. She's offering to tell her side to the Boston Globe. Claims she has evidence of financial misconduct on your part, Dad. Something about irregular transfers from 2018? Arthur's smile held the same cold satisfaction he'd shown during the 2008 financial crisis when his predictions proved correct. Right on schedule. Faith. His sister activated the next phase with a single keystroke. Seconds later, Ginger's phone received the injunction, a comprehensive legal document detailing how any public statements would trigger immediate criminal charges for charity fraud. The document included an itemized list of every misappropriated dollar, every fraudulent transfer, with copies sent simultaneously to the DA's office and her legal team. The DA's office confirms they're ready to move, Faith reported. Judge Harrison is personally overseeing the case. His granddaughter Sarah was supposed to receive one of the diverted scholarships. He's motivated. Emma moved to stand beside her father, her expression reflecting the same steely determination. The foundation board convenes tomorrow at 9 a.m. Margaret Bullock has prepared a statement that will effectively end Mom's social career. I have the draft here. It's quite thorough in its condemnation. The algorithm predicts complete social isolation within 72 hours, James announced, studying the data streams. Financial freeze will be complete in 48. All attempts to access emergency funds have been blocked. Even her mother's credit cards are being declined now apparently. Grandmother isn't pleased about having her accounts used for urgent spa treatments. Through the window, they watched the catering staff cleaning up the last evidence of last night's party. Each worker had been carefully selected by Thomas for their connections to families affected by the foundation fraud. The stories they carried would spread through Boston's service industry network, reaching every household where Ginger had played social queen. The Ritz just called, Thomas reported. They're unable to accept Mrs. Hammond's reservation due to a system error. The same error seems to be affecting every luxury hotel in New England. Monday morning arrived with brutal efficiency. Arthur walked into Hammond and Dwyer Investments, soon to be just Hammond Investments, his measured steps echoing through the unusually quiet lobby. Employees watched his passage with a mixture of awe and fear, already aware of the morning's agenda. The boardroom held the full contingent of partners, their expressions ranging from poorly concealed shock to calculated assessment of opportunities. Garrett sat alone at the far end, his Seville rose suit wrinkled from a sleepless night, his usual allies conspicuously absent from their chairs. The evidence is irrefutable, Arthur began, activating the presentation system the twins had specially programmed for this moment. Financial records cascaded across multiple displays, each fraudulent transaction highlighted in damning red. Over the past 3 years, Garrett diverted $17.3 million to private accounts. Client funds were used for personal expenses. Trading records were falsified to conceal the theft. Elizabeth Chun, head of risk management and a woman known for her ruthless attention to detail, leaned forward. The full scope of the SEC investigation? Already in motion, Arthur confirmed, switching to a new set of documents. The anonymous tip included comprehensive documentation of every fraudulent transaction. Offshore accounts have been frozen. The Cayman Islands banking authorities are cooperating fully apparently. They don't appreciate their banking system being used to defraud children's charities. Garrett, desperation evident in every movement, launched into his last desperate gambit. Arthur's lying. His voice cracked with barely controlled panic. Ginger and we have proof. He's been manipulating client accounts for years. The foundation transfers, he authorized them. Interesting theory. Arthur's voice remained calm as he projected a new set of emails onto the screen. Years of correspondence between Garrett and Ginger filled the display, detailing their embezzlement plans, their manipulation of both clients and family. Your secretary Casey Reed provided these, along with a rather detailed account of how you used stolen foundation money to buy her silence. Casey? Garrett's face lost what little color remained. But I gave her. The money you used to buy her loyalty came from the Children's Foundation, Arthur cut in, his voice carrying just enough volume to reach the recording devices he knew were active. Her nephew lost his college scholarship because of your fraud. She's been cooperating with investigators since the day she discovered the source of her bonuses. The board's vote was unanimous, executed with the same ruthless efficiency that had built the firm's reputation. Security waited outside, not to escort Garrett out, but to ensure he cleared his office under supervision. By week's end, his name would be removed from every surface in the building, leaving only Hammond as a testament to integrity. The Boston social scene, which Ginger had dominated for years, turned against her with choreographed precision. Faith orchestrated the fall from her command center in Arthur's home office, each move calculated for maximum impact. The hospital board's emergency session lasted exactly 7 minutes before voting to rescind Ginger's chairwoman position. The press release, crafted by Emma with her emerging legal precision, cited irreconcilable ethical conflicts and betrayal of charitable trust. 3 country clubs simultaneously reviewed their membership policies. The Butler Creek Club, where Ginger had reigned over charity galas for a decade, discovered sudden irregularities in her membership application. The Riverside Golf Club remembered urgent maintenance needs on her favorite tennis courts. The Wellington Country Club regretfully had to enforce their previously overlooked ethics clause. The Symphony Guild moved with particular efficiency. Within hours, Ginger's name vanished from donor plaques, event committees, and the upcoming season's program. The guild president, whose granddaughter had been promised a music scholarship from the Hammond Foundation, personally supervised the removal of Ginger's portrait from the patron's wall. Private school mothers, those arbiters of Boston's social hierarchy, performed a digital execution. Numbers blocked. Email addresses blacklisted. Social media connections severed. Even the Chatty Mothers WhatsApp group, where Ginger had cultivated her image of charitable perfection, fell silent. Charity organizations, sensing the changing winds, issued statements of shock and dismay. Each press release, carefully worded to suggest deep personal betrayal, added another nail to the coffin of Ginger's social standing. She's at the Ritz. Emma updated them over dinner, her tone suggesting both amusement and disgust. Using her mother's credit card. Living on borrowed time and money. Speaking of money, Arthur turned to his children, his expression softening slightly as he regarded the 3 people who had stood with him through it all. Let's discuss your trusts. The twins exchanged knowing looks across the table. We know, Dad. We tracked the accounts when we first suspected something was wrong. Mom tried to access them last April. She attempted to transfer my Yale fund, Emma added, her voice hardening at the memory. That's when we started documenting everything. The foundation discrepancies led us to the larger fraud. Faith entered with fresh intelligence from her network. The Somerset Club just canceled her lifetime membership. Apparently, their bylaws have strict provisions about members indicted for financial crimes. Arthur nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. The social execution was proceeding exactly as planned, each element falling into place with the precision of a well-played chess game. Boston's elite were learning a valuable lesson about the true nature of power. It wasn't in the hosting of charity galas or the holding of board positions, but in the quiet ability to destroy those who betrayed trust. 2 weeks after Emma's graduation party, the Beacon Hill Society's mahogany-paneled conference room held an unprecedented gathering of New England's charitable elite. Arthur Hammond stood before the assembled foundation heads, his presence commanding the same attention that had built his financial empire. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, activating the presentation system the twins had prepared. What you're about to see represents 3 years of systematic theft from our community's most vulnerable members. The screen displayed a complex web of transactions, each fraudulent transfer highlighted in accusatory red. Margaret Bullock, now heading the investigation committee, rose from her seat. The audit of the Hammond Foundation has revealed disturbing patterns of misappropriation. Mr. Hammond has provided comprehensive documentation tracking every dollar, The projector displayed a series of damning images. A $2.3 million villa in the Maldives purchased with diverted scholarship funds. Shopping sprees at Bergdorf's totaling $847,000 charged to medical research grants. Private jet trips worth $1.2 million labeled as administrative expenses. Here, Arthur indicated a particular transaction chain. You'll see how they diverted funds meant for the Wellington Academy's underprivileged student program. 12 students lost their educational opportunities so my wife could maintain her social status. Judge Harrison, whose granddaughter Sarah had been among those affected, leaned forward. The criminal implications? The DA's office has everything they need, Arthur confirmed. The SEC investigation has already frozen their assets. But more importantly, he pressed a button, changing the display. Full restitution will be made. Every scholarship will be funded. Every program restored. I've established a separate trust with $50 million to ensure no student loses their educational opportunity because of this betrayal. Meanwhile, in her suite at the Ritz-Carlton, Ginger made her final desperate move. Her literary agent, Daniel Foster, the only person still taking her calls, had arranged a deal with Beacon Press. The Real Hammond Story, a tale of betrayal, promised to expose the truth behind Boston's perfect family. The advance is substantial, Foster assured her over the phone. We can position this as a story of female empowerment, of breaking free from. A knock at the door interrupted him. A courier delivered a thick envelope to Ginger's room. Inside, highlighted in the divorce paperwork she had signed without reading, was Clause 247B. Exclusive rights to the family's story, including any purported exposé, memoirs, or personal accounts, belonged to Arthur Hammond in perpetuity. Her call to Foster went straight to voicemail. Within hours, Beacon Press issued a terse statement canceling the book project due to unforeseen legal complications. Across town, in the federal courthouse's interrogation room, Garrett faced his own moment of truth. Federal prosecutor Janie Rowe spread evidence across the table, each document another nail in his legal coffin. I'll testify against Ginger, he pleaded, his Hermes tie now permanently askew. It was all her idea. She orchestrated everything. I can prove she was the mastermind. Rowe, whose sister had lost her scholarship to medical school due to similar fraud and subsequently took her own life, smiled with predatory satisfaction. These emails suggest otherwise. She laid out a series of damning correspondences. But please, tell us more about the Cayman accounts, particularly the ones hidden under your godchildren's names. 1 year later, the Hammond estate had undergone a transformation that mirrored the family's evolution. The sprawling property, once a showcase of social pretension, now served a higher purpose. Emma, having finished her first year at Yale Law with honors and already making waves in charitable oversight law, stood in what had once been Ginger's pride and joy, the Rose Garden. Where prize-winning hybrid teas had once bloomed for society photographers, rows of organic vegetables now flourished. The garden, part of an urban farming initiative, supplied fresh produce to 3 local food banks and provided agricultural education for inner-city students. Michael and James, fresh from winning the National Robotics Championship, supervised the installation of their latest innovation, a solar-powered automated irrigation system controlled by the same blockchain technology that now protected charitable foundations nationwide. Their fraud prevention system, inspired by their mother's betrayal, had been adopted by over 200 charitable organizations. The tracking system caught another attempt, Michael reported, checking his tablet. Mom tried to contact the Symphony Guild through a fake donor account. James nodded, adjusting a solar panel. The algorithm flagged her writing pattern within seconds. All her known linguistic markers are in the database now. Dad, Emma called from the garden's entrance. There's something you need to see. She carried a dusty photo album discovered during the attic's conversion into a hydroponic growing space. Inside was a photograph from their early days, Arthur and Ginger in their modest Somerville apartment, genuine smiles unmarred by social ambition. She chose appearance over substance, Arthur observed, studying the image without regret. Flash over foundation. The same mistake Garrett made at the firm. The twins joined them, carrying blueprints for their latest project, an expansion of their blockchain system designed to create an interlocking network of protected charitable organizations. Some people, Arthur told his children, looking at each with well-earned pride, spend so much time pretending to be perfect, they forget how to be real. But you three? You chose truth. That's worth more than any trust fund. Outside, Boston's elite gathered for the annual charity gala, but with a fundamental difference. Every donation was tracked through the twins' blockchain system, each dollar accounted for with transparent precision. The Hammond name had emerged stronger, now synonymous with both wealth and integrity. Faith appeared with her tablet, checking the foundation's latest metrics. The new scholarship program helped 37 students this semester alone. Judge Harrison's granddaughter Sarah is graduating medical school next month. She's planning to open a clinic in an underserved community. Thomas approached with his usual efficiency. Sir, Mrs. Hammond attempted to access the property through the service entrance. Security intercepted her. She was rather insistent about seeing the children. Her mother finally cut off her credit cards, Emma added, checking her phone. The Ritz asked her to leave this morning. She's moved to a small apartment in Connecticut, paid for by her sister. In that Connecticut apartment, Ginger watched her old life play out on social media, each post a reminder of what she'd lost. The Hammond Foundation's latest gala filled her feed faces she once called friends, charities she once chaired, a life destroyed not by her husband's revenge, but by her own choices. Her attempt to comment on the Foundation's posts met with immediate blocking. The twins' algorithm, designed to protect against financial fraud, now served equally well as a social firewall, ensuring she could never again penetrate the world she betrayed. The evening's charity gala showcased the new Hammond legacy. Where Ginger had once held court, dispensing social approval like a queen, now stood a united family dedicated to genuine charitable work. The twins demonstrated their blockchain system to impress donors, while Emma discussed legal protections for charitable foundations with a group of corporate lawyers. Arthur watched his children with satisfaction. They had not merely survived Ginger's betrayal, they had transformed it into something powerful, something meaningful. The Hammond name would be remembered not for scandal, but for the positive change that rose from its ashes. The final documents from Garrett's trial arrived that morning. He had received 15 years for fraud, with no possibility of early release. His desperate attempts to blame Ginger had only succeeded in strengthening the case against both of them. The Hammond estate buzzed with new energy, focused not on maintaining appearances but on creating real change. The perfect facade had been replaced by genuine purpose, and Boston's elite had learned a valuable lesson. True power lies not in social status or wealth, but in the integrity with which one wields it. In his private moments, Arthur never regretted his decisions. The systematic destruction of his wife's social empire hadn't been about revenge, it had been about justice, about protecting the vulnerable from those who would exploit them for social gain. The fact that justice had aligned so perfectly with revenge was simply an added satisfaction. Epilogue: a decade of consequences. 10 years had passed since the night Boston's perfect family facade crumbled. The Hammond estate, once a showcase of social pretension, had evolved into something far more meaningful. The urban farming project that replaced Ginger's rose garden now supplied fresh produce to 12 food banks across New England, its success a constant reminder of the difference between appearance and substance. In a small assisted living facility in Connecticut, Ginger Hammond, now using her maiden name Wilson after multiple failed attempts to reinvent herself, lived on a modest allowance from her increasingly distant family. Her attempts to rebuild her social status in smaller communities had all failed, each one thwarted by the twins' ever-evolving algorithm that tracked and flagged her activities across social and financial networks. Her last desperate play had come 5 years ago, when she tried to approach Sarah Harrison, Judge Harrison's granddaughter, and one of the students originally defrauded by the foundation scandal. Sarah, now a successful surgeon running 3 clinics in underserved communities, had walked past without acknowledgement. Her own foundation's work a testament to what could be achieved when privilege served purpose rather than pretense. Garrett Dwyer's fall had been even more dramatic. 8 years into his 15-year sentence at a federal correctional facility, he'd lost his final appeal. The evidence provided by his former secretary Casey Reed had proven insurmountable. His attempts to trade information for leniency had backfired spectacularly, each revelation only serving to uncover more of his own crimes. His ex-wife had remarried, their children had changed their last names, and the Dwyer family, once prominent in Boston's financial circles, had relocated to California, leaving behind all associations with their disgraced patriarch. His former clients' lawsuits had stripped away what little remained of his personal fortune. The Hammond legacy. Arthur Hammond, now approaching 70 but showing no signs of slowing down, had transformed Hammond Investments into the country's leading authority on ethical finance. The firm's reputation for integrity, born from the ashes of betrayal, attracted clients who valued principles as much as profits. Emma, having graduated Yale Law with highest honors, now headed the firm's legal department while simultaneously running the Hammond Foundation's expanded scholarship program. Her work in charitable oversight law had led to the passage of the Hammond Act, requiring blockchain-based transparency for all nonprofit organizations. The twins, Michael and James, had turned their high school robotics project into something revolutionary. Their blockchain system, originally designed to catch their mother's fraud, had evolved into the industry standard for financial oversight. Technical journals referred to it as the Hammond Protocol, and its implementation was mandatory for any organization dealing with charitable funds. Faith, whose quiet observation had first uncovered the betrayal, now served as the foundation's executive director. Under her guidance, the scholarship program had grown exponentially, supporting over 500 students annually. Each recipient was personally vetted, their stories known, their progress monitored, a direct response to the impersonal fraud that had once threatened the program. Thomas remained the soul of efficiency, managing both the estate and its expanding charitable operations. The security system he oversaw had grown more sophisticated, though Ginger's attempts at contact had dwindled to annual Christmas cards that were promptly shredded. The ripple effect. The broader impact of the Hammond scandal had reshaped Boston's charitable landscape. The old system of social climbing through charitable board positions had been replaced by strict oversight and genuine commitment to causes. The twins' blockchain technology made financial transparency non-negotiable. Margaret Bullock, before her retirement, had used the Hammond case to revolutionize charitable governance across New England. Her successor, ironically, was Casey Reed Garrett's former secretary, whose testimony had helped bring down the fraud. Her intimate knowledge of how charitable fraud operated made her uniquely qualified to prevent it. The Ritz-Carlton, where Ginger had spent her last days of social relevance, now hosted the annual Hammond Foundation Scholarship Awards. Each year, Sarah Harrison delivered the keynote address, her story of lost and restored opportunity serving as both warning and inspiration. Judge Harrison, though retired from the bench, still attended every ceremony. His granddaughter's success, and the success of hundreds of students like her, had transformed a personal betrayal into a powerful force for change. The final account. In a moment of bitter irony, Ginger's Connecticut apartment overlooked the community college where several Hammond Foundation scholars now studied. Each morning, she watched young people hurrying to classes, their opportunities secured by the very system she had once defrauded. Her attempts to publish her story had all failed, thwarted by Arthur's ownership of the rights. Her last ghostwritten blog post had been taken down within hours, the twins' algorithm detecting her writing style despite her attempts to disguise it. Garrett, according to prison records, had finally stopped talking about revenge and redemption. His cell walls were bare except for a single newspaper clipping the announcement of the Hammond Protocol becoming federal law. His former partner's triumph was his daily reminder of everything he had lost. The true victory. Arthur's office still held the photo Emma had found in the attic that day, young Ginger and Arthur in their modest apartment. But now it shared space with newer images. Emma arguing her first Supreme Court case, the twins receiving the National Medal of Technology, Faith accepting the Humanitarian of the Year award. These photographs told the true story of the Hammond family, not one of revenge, but of transformation. The betrayal that could have destroyed them had instead forged something unbreakable. Their legacy was not in the destruction of Ginger and Garrett's hollow social empire, but in the construction of something genuine and lasting. The Hammond name, once associated with Boston's social elite, now stood for something far more valuable: integrity, innovation, and the power of truth over appearance. The family's real triumph wasn't in the precision of their revenge, but in how they had transformed betrayal into beneficence. As Arthur gazed out over the urban farm that had replaced Ginger's precious roses, He reflected that some gardens grow stronger when the decorative flowers are replaced by things of true sustenance. The Hammond family had learned that real power lies not in social position or wealth, but in the integrity with which one wields influence. Today, the Hammond Foundation announced its 1,000th scholarship recipient. The press release, drafted by Emma with her usual legal precision, made no mention of the scandal that had sparked this transformation. It didn't need to. The future belonged to those who built rather than betrayed, who chose substance over show, who transformed pain into purpose. In the end, Ginger and Garrett's greatest punishment wasn't prison terms or social exile. It was having to watch from the shadows as their betrayal gave birth to something greater than their small ambitions could have ever imagined. Their legacy would be forever linked to the positive changes their destruction had inadvertently created. A cosmic irony that no revenge could have planned better.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.